Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Episode 594. And we're playing a little bit more Doom today with Project Brutality. Yeah, let me tell you, I have been playing a lot of Doom. And, I like vanilla Doom. I think it's pretty good. I would have said, it's in probably my top 100 games, sure. But Project Brutality? And now I've been playing around with all these, like, custom, fan-made WADs and stuff. That bumps this up into, like, a top 10 game for me, Just a phenomenal first-person shooter experience. More so than, like, I didn't even pick up the latest Battlefield. But that's because I'm more into single-player stuff than multiplayer. And so, like, single-player first-person shooters, this is probably my favorite. It's really damn good. So I've been playing a lot of Doom. And yeah, I have a lot of videos to upload. Not just of Doom, but of any sort of boomer shooters. Because I did do Proteus and Cultic Episode 1. And I've been thinking of doing Celico. I played through a bit of it on my own, but it might be fun for a Let's Play. Let me just stop for a moment. Okay, let me stop for a moment and let me just look at how many videos I have here. So there's Ashes, which I'm uploading right now, but beyond that, it's pretty much one of the only things I've been recording. Let's see. I would say in the ballpark of 50 plus. Yeah. Like 50 plus boomer shooter videos. Mostly Doom, but Proteus and Cultic Episode 1 as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of shooters. Which, I wouldn't really count it as like one of my favorite genres. I mean, I like it, but it's not something I spend a lot of my free time playing. But yeah, lately it's just been, it's been all the rage. And I've been contemplating going back and replaying Doom 2016 as well. Not on video or anything, but it's not my own. Fuck. There you go. Nice. I've also been playing RimWorld. I have been playing a save file in order to get up to the point with my colony where I can do a grab ship and play the Odyssey content. That is not a quick process. It would have been a lot quicker to just start as a spacer tech. And you could have even had a start, I think, where you can just start with a grav ship or on a grav ship. But I was like, no, I want to work up to it and build it myself and experience blah, blah, blah. But then I'm playing with hundreds of mods, of course, and I'm playing... I'm playing with this mod that allows you to progress through the tech levels. So I started at industrial, and to get to space, I have to research like every fucking industrial tech. But with all the mods I have, it's like 220 techs just in the industrial level. And I'm playing with semi-random research. So I'm on year like 9 or something of my colony. But I'll get there. You know, it's a lot of just playing at like max speed sort of thing. What secret did I miss? Oh, I know. So eventually I'll be recording videos for RimWorld Odyssey. Eventually. But yeah, a lot of Doom. Let's see. Over on the well, I guess aside from that, of course, I've been uploading Ashes. I've been uploading solo RPG stuff. I've been uploading Dominions. You know the routine. And yeah, that's what's gonna continue. Over on the Exploring series, I've loaded part 1 of Containment Breach Capacity. And it was a pretty short part 1. Not probably the shortest of part 1 I've ever uploaded. Not my proudest moment. I was like, ooh, it's not a good look. Especially because it's like, I really have no idea how long part 2 is going to be. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole fucking thing. You know, it's like, I don't know. We'll just put it out there so I have a video for this week, and then we'll see. I'm happy to say that part 2 is about an hour long. And I'm relatively happy with the end result as far as like, this is a somewhat coherent video as a somewhat explanation of the article. It's not a complete explanation. It's one of those rare times where I don't actually like include the entire article in the video. You know. But it's a very complicated article. There were some things I left out on purpose. Other things, well, it's like I don't know. The things I didn't. There are probably things I didn't notice in the article. That's happened. That has happened, but yeah, so. But overall, I think people will mostly be happy with it. Okay, I could have sworn that's the line death. No, that was it. Okay. You know, it's obviously it's tied to this game, Containment Breach, insofar as it's trying to present the events of the game as an SCP article from the Foundation's perspective, including like the multiple endings of the game and the procedural generation of the game and stuff. And you know, it's a very unique sort of concept. Very unique concept. And also a very unique presentation of the concept with this nested article thing. Like, it didn't have to be that way. It could have just been a normal thing, but it's like, it's sort of already a ridiculous concept, and then on top of that, he went with a very ridiculous presentation as well. And, you know, the game is certainly a big deal within the SCP universe, the community and all that. The off-site community, at least. But I've never played it. And that apparently surprised some people. Someone even came into the Discord and was like, I couldn't believe Exploring Series hasn't played Containment Breach. It's like, you know. I got into SCP because of reading words and stuff, not because of game. And then I don't like horror games, so, you know, it just, I mean, I know of it, but I've never even like watched videos of people playing it, because it's just like, what's the point? Like, it's not like some hot new lore or something about SCP that I need to be aware of. It's never been relevant until now. So now I've seen some footage of people playing it, just so I could, you know, sort of talk about the article a little better. And watching footage of people playing it made me confirm that, yeah, it's definitely not my thing. Not really at all. Definitely would freak the shit out of me to play. But yeah, I ended up being very impressed with that article. I can understand the complaints that people wrote about it, you know, or of just like, it's way too confusing, all these nested things, it's tedious. I kind of just gave up before reading all of it, you know, just like, you know, yeah, it's a very unique thing. That's always going to be somewhat divisive. But I spent 2 weeks as part of my job looking at it, so I thought it was pretty cool. Anyways. We'll see what people have to say about it. And that's it. And then we'll be on to something else. We'll be on to some other SCP thing. Actually, I think it's going to be more fifth-this SCPs. I haven't really talked about fifth-ism in quite a while in detail as part of like the focus of a video. So that'll be fun. I remember my first fifth-this video. I made I made a sort of reference, a comparison, I guess, to Scientology. and then someone messaged me or commented. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't a death threat or anything, but it was like, I seem to recall it being vaguely threatening. So I won't do that. I have enough trouble. No, I don't. I have no trouble, but I don't want no trouble. I'm like Jackie Chan. Yeah, you know, the Scientologists, they're a little sensitive. Which is funny because I just watched that episode of Seinfeld, the parking garage, where they get that woman to like help drive them around the parking garage to find their car, and she seems really nice and everything, and then it cuts just to her screeching for them to get the hell out of her car. And George is just like, I didn't know you were part of that organization. I don't even know L. Ron Hubbard. Like, see, they've been sensitive for a very long time. Anyways, yeah, fifth-ish shit. Should be fun. You know, I was just like, I was just thinking, I haven't done a compilation sort of video in a bit. I guess what did I do? Temporal SCPs, and yeah, I guess I have, but not for a group of interest. I haven't done a group of interest one in a little bit. And I thought about fifithism, because I think fifithism is kind of fun, and there you have it. So that's what we'll do. Anyways, talking about RPGs. You know, I am no longer the DM. Lego has taken over DM duties. And last week, you know, he did Ghostlight. We did the first part of Ghostlight. And this week we finished it. And, you know, I was like, okay, I should probably dial it down a little bit. With Big McLarge Huge. My aunt complained that they didn't get to make any decisions, which is, I thought they didn't want to make any decisions, but I think they more just wanted to be somewhat involved. And I steamrolled them a little too much. I was like, okay, I'll dial it down. Let them make some decisions. And oh, so I told Lego, you know, at the end of the first part, I killed this hag that we found in this sewer system, this witch. I just cleaved her in half. And last week on Hanging with Mangg, I realized that hag definitely had stats. She had good stats, and I definitely would not have killed her in one shot. I would have been killed in one shot, probably. I told Lego about that, and yeah, he was pretty upset with himself for not noticing that or realizing that. And it was just like, yeah, you know, he's not really like in this world that much. It's all pretty new to him, so it's like I don't really blame him. But you know, he knows for future reference that pretty much everything has stats, generally, in a pre-written module. But, right, you know, rather than trying to retcon anything, whatever, just like, okay, the witch is dead. Let's move on. So we go out of the witch's room, and we get into an encounter with a couple of wargs. Intelligent giant wolf creatures. And these wargs start speaking with us. Because Lego wanted to... Well, I mean, it was in the module. But he obviously wanted to not have everything be a combat, which is good. That's a good sensibility. I appreciate that. But since one, big is not much for talking. I didn't want to just, like, okay, I cleave their head off. You know, I just attack. This is like, okay, you know, there should be some negotiation here. I don't have the right character for it. So I just handed it over basically to my mom and my aunt to just sort of talk. They weren't very good at it. So in the future, I kind of have to play a more charismatic character, which is my preference anyway, so that's all well and good. Yeah, so in the end, Lego, he was looking at, you know, the module runs it as like this sort of negotiation mini game thing, or this, like, yeah, this negotiation mechanic. And he was just like kind of kerfuddled by it, and he asked me, and I was just like, yeah, I hate that shit. I never use that kind of stuff. Any RPG that has a negotiation mechanic is just not. It's just not. It's not for me. I don't need that kind of thing to negotiate with an NPC. Fuck. So, they ended up failing the negotiation as far as he concluded. So, the fight happened anyways. And it was not super easy little fight. We did end up winning, but I kind of got beat up a bit, and I was running out of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab one of the ward carcasses. I'm gonna drag it into this room where the witch was. I'm gonna spike the door shut, and we're gonna eat this warg and have a long rest. And I think it's so foreign to these other players of ours. I think it's very foreign to them to take a long rest or rest inside of a dungeon. You know, it's always meant to be you could do the dungeon, get beat up, and then you try to leave. But resting in a dungeon is perfectly possible. Not always the best decision, but it is perfectly possible. Here, in this case, it's like, fuck it, I'm doing it. And yeah, Lego just let us have a long rest, and that helped a lot for the final battle as far as my character was concerned. So I was happy. And then we continued on. And I'm trying to think if anything else notable happened. Oh, yes. Okay, I remember now. So there was this sequence where it was like kind of, we're in the sewers, and there's kind of this flooded section. So it's flooded with sewer shit. But there's a bunch of debris kind of floating in it. And again, I think Lego just kind of takes it a bit too far. He thinks just a bit too much like a video game. So I really am trying to get him to understand, like, the DM does not have to spell out almost anything, really. The DM has to have full knowledge of the environment. And the DM has to be able to answer reasonable questions from the players that their characters or whatever would know or would be able to notice, right? That's what the DM has. That's it. And they don't have to provide really anything else than that. So, you know, we get to this section with the sewer. And he's like, yeah, so there's some debris, some flotsam in the sewage. And it looks like you could jump across them to get to the other side. And then on the virtual tabletop, he's like, okay, so I've these white circles. That's where it looks like you could jump on the debris. And I just like, it's like, okay, stop. This is wrong for multiple reasons. A, it is not the DM's duty to tell us that we could jump across these. Not without us asking if we could jump across. Okay, that's just, you're there to describe the room in you know, sufficient means and answer questions that we have. That's really it. It is not the DM's job to sort of assume anything about our mode of operation or how we might circumvent an obstacle. That is not for the DM to really think about. I mean, sometimes, like, a DM shouldn't put necessarily a problem in his game that he cannot think of a solution to. Like, that can be bad if it's literally like an unsurmountable obstacle or something. But at the same time, I don't think there really is such a thing. And I think that's part of why I love RPGs, is like, anything's possible, and a DM will never be able to think of everything. So even if they come up with a problem, it's like, I don't know how they'll do this, they'll do it. By hook or by crook, they'll fucking do it if they're good enough. But that's the fun part. So I never ever want to be told by my DM how I should accomplish something. That takes away the enjoyment of my part of the game, of being a player, right? So that's a pretty big problem. Secondly, well, really, to go in with that then, with him circling on the map and saying this is where it looks like you could jump, you're already telling, I mean, you're telling us how to beat this. There really is no other, I mean, we could come up with other ways, but then if we come up with other ways, we're basically just saying, nah, fuck you and this little extra work you did. We don't like that, and we're just going to do this, which it's acceptable. I mean, in this case, I would say that's warranted, but third, it really was just extra busy work for him for no reason. He's already a very busy guy that doesn't have much time to prep stuff. So for him to waste time doing something like that is just nonsensical. And fourth, even aside from that, it's completely unnecessary. Because it's like, how does that do anything for us? How does that help us? It's not a video game. We don't need to see on a screen where we can jump. He still just does not grasp entirely that this is not a video game. So it was glaring for multiple reasons, and I just had to say something. But anyways, I was just like, okay, fuck it, I'll jump. I'll start jumping across. And I wobbled a little bit, nearly fell in, but I made it to the other side. Oh, no, okay, I'm skipping a step before we even get to that. Right. So the first thing I did was I threw an iron spike into the middle of the sewage. This really bewildered my fellow players, my family. They couldn't understand why I did such a thing. My mom especially, I guess, was very confused. But then Lego described how basically a giant octopus tentacle rose up out of the sewage and snatched the iron spike out of the air or out of the water or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's why. And it's really unnecessary in a 5th edition module, but hey, we're practicing for the real game. And so then, again, just sort of a rules and a ruling kind of just flub from Lego of him not quite grasping the situation. You know, hopefully he'll get there. But basically, he called for a wisdom check after I threw the iron spike in. And the only one that really made it was my nephew. And so he described that to my nephew, that this tentacle came out and grabbed the iron spike. And I was like, wait, how is he the only one that noticed that? I mean, I threw it in there and I was looking directly at it. How would I not notice that? And basically, from what I understood, is in the module, it says that when the players approach the pool, they should roll a wisdom to see if they notice the octopus, like, hiding in it. And I was like, yeah, but I threw the iron spike. That's why I threw the spike, so we didn't have to do the wisdom roll to see if we notice it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was a little too adherent to the actual module text and what it was saying without actually thinking about what I was doing and reacting to it. But it's his first time, and he's trying to just run a module, and I'm not being a perfect player to go along with it. You know, I'm playing like I'm an actual player. But I think it was good for us to do that and have that discussion so he can understand, like, you know, thinking about these things logically. Overall, I think he calls for way too many rolls, and I really am trying to hammer that home of just, you really don't need to call for many rolls. You know, you only need to call for a roll as a DM when the players are doing something or something would happen to them that the consequences are interesting. When, like, Shadow Dark says that you call for a roll if the players are doing something and they don't have either time, skill, or there's pressure on them in some way, like exterior pressure, such as being in a fight or you know, being in the darkness or whatever. And I think it's not a problem unique to him. I think a lot of DMs in the modern age probably call for too many rolls, because it's, you know, it's no skin off the DM's back. Yeah, just make the players roll, and then they fail, and you get to describe, you know, haha, you failed. You're so stupid and idiotic because you rolled a random die and it rolled a low number. You know, but most of the time, it's better to assume the players are, or at least the characters are somewhat competent at a lot of tasks. It just makes for a more fun game and a faster game for all parties. So he's learning, and I'm gonna continue trying to be like a backseat DM here because I think he appreciates it. I assume he appreciates it. Um, I don't think I'm a great DM or anything as far as like NPCs are concerned and making a world feel lively and lived in, but from a mechanical standpoint, I've read a lot of blogs and a lot of other opinions and thoughts from better DMs and stuff like that. So he's free to be his own DM and argue for sure. These are just opinions. But anyways, where were we? Right, so we fought the octopus, of course. And because I threw the spike, he did give me like a free shot with my crossbow on it, on the tentacle as it was flailing around. So that was nice. And that's, yeah, I think it's a very important thing too, of being a fan of the players and, creative solutions to problems or things like that should be rewarded. You want to encourage that kind of stuff, typically. Right. We fought the octopus. That was no real problem. And then it okay. I mean, to be fair, crossing the sewage, right? Like he sort of basically stated that we were to jump across, which I've already talked about. It's not a good thing. But, we did end up jumping across. That's the least creative solution, right? We didn't really do anything to improve our chances of not falling in. So I can't really blame him for the way he ran it. Somewhat. I think he ran it somewhat as the module stated. In fact, I might pull up the module right now. Let's see. D&D 5e. Ghostlight. Let's pull up that section. Yeah, I think a big part of this is just this module and D&D 5e modules in general that just sort of state, because I can't really blame him for playing it and running it like this, because this is what it says. I mean, the thing where he circled the things and everything like that I can't blame him for. I don't know why he did that. But anyways, it says characters can leap between pieces of floating debris with successful DC 15 dexterity acrobatics checks. On a failed check, PCs must succeed on DC 13 dexterity saves or fall into the pond. Once every 1d4 rounds, the pipes unleash a torrent of muck, causing the debris to bob and spin. Any PCs on the debris must succeed on DC 13 dexterity saves or fall into the sewage. And it's just like, all that. What's curious is, despite having all that stated there, it doesn't state how long it takes to jump across. Which I think is why he sort of circled it, because I think in his mind it was like, okay, they'll have to roll to jump to this one, roll to jump to this one, roll to jump to this one, and then that each is like a round, and then once every 1d4 round, it's just like, and it's this whole big sequence is like, oh my god, this big set piece of us jumping across this debris. But again, it's just like, I much prefer OSR gameplay and OSR modules, because they would not spell any of this out, really, right? They would just say, okay, here's a big pile of sewage. There's debris floating in it. That's it. Call it a day. The penalty for failing and falling into the sewage. One, it says, is the giant octopus doesn't attack creatures balanced on the debris. It only attacks creatures in the sewage. So you're really only meant to attack it if it only comes out once you're in the sewage. Also, it says at some point else that anyone that falls in the sewage, or it says somewhere in here. Yeah. PC submerged in sewerage water for at least one round must pass DC 11 Constitution saving throw or contract sewer plague. Um so I mean there is definitely penalty for failure, and even though we killed the octopus, there still was like, okay, we don't want to fall in the sewage, that would be bad. So there should be a roll if we're just going to jump across the debris like we did. Um the problem was, it was like it just took a long time, and it was just roll after roll after roll. So it was like one of the players, they failed to run across, jump across. So then they had to roll the dexterity save. They failed the dexterity save. Then they climb back out, and then he had them roll again to jump to the next one. They fail that one. So then they have to roll to see if they stay on the debris or fall in. They fail that one. They fell in. It's just like, oh my God. If I ran this, it probably would have been like, it would have been a roll to see if you jump across to the other side. And if you succeed on that, you're done. Which, to be fair, is how he did it. I'm pretty sure that's how he did it. But if you fail that one, then you got to roll to see if you fall in or not. And again, that's how he ran. But then I would say that if you fall in, you just like swim to the other side. And you're like, well, fuck, I'm in the sewage, so I go to the other side. Now, it's a lot different if the octopus is still in there, which is how I would have ran it, of course. I would not have, it is. I don't think he really, yeah, he didn't run it too wrong. He set it up kind of wrong, obviously, but that's partly the module to blame. Anyways, we get past that finally, and we end up on another ship. And this has a bunch of ghost sailors rowing, but there's a guy at the end, um, this big thug, and he's this evil captain of the Ghost Light, and we were gonna fight him. And so I start charging at him because I have enough talk. And he starts blowing on these magical pipes that summon a bunch of shadow rats. And I'm like, okay, you deal with the shadow rats, I'll deal with him. Um, they almost died to the shadow rats, and I soloed the boss. So that was that. And then there was another guy there, this like were rat that was like, "Oh, play the pipes," and we didn't trust this rat king at all. We didn't trust him at all because he was chained up and he looked evil. He's a were rat. So I'm like, I ain't playing those fucking pipes. So I smashed the pipes, and like I was like, okay, roll a strength check, and I roll a crit. So it's like, okay. Um, apparently they were a magic item, the pipes of the sewers. That allows you to control rats, but fuck that. Destroy it. Um. So yeah, in the end, we beat the big guy. We all survived. We did end up freeing the Rat King because he isn't actually evil, apparently. And then we got booted out back to our ship outside of the Ghost Light, and everything was good, and that was the end. Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's it's a module written for D&D 5e. It's like, how good can it be, I guess. Um, everyone thought he did a pretty good job. He's definitely has a lot of room to grow and experience to gain and all that. But that's why afterwards we're like, okay, well now, what are we going to do next? I didn't want to just say like, okay, what are you DMing next? If he was like, you know what, it's not for me, I'm not going to do it anymore. I would have taken control again. I would have DM'd, gone back to Shadow Dark or whatever. But no, he said that he was going to keep DMing, and he's going to DM Shadow Dark. because we all thought that would be a better fit for the group and for him. Now, I don't think he really loves DMing. He's not a forever DM, and I think he's probably doing it out of a sense of obligation because I have DM'd so much and he knows that I don't like it. So he just thinks like, okay, I'm doing this as like a favor, which isn't great. It's not great, but maybe if he's DMing Shadowdark and he's DMing a dungeon, maybe he'll get more into it. Maybe he'll appreciate it. I just don't think he's ever really going to prep that much. And more importantly, I don't think he's ever going to read that much. He's not really a reader, you know. No one in my family really is. My dad's a reader. My dad likes to read. But anyways, yeah, I don't see him going and reading like Shadow Dark blogs and reading modules in his spare time and spending time on Drive Through RPG and blah blah blah. Which I do, but I still don't like DMing. So I don't know. We'll see. So we spent some time making Shadow Dark characters at the end of that session. Um and we have, the core four classes. I'm gonna play a dwarf wizard. Um and I sent over, I have a lot of modules in my collection, and many of them I have not read, which is important because I want to be surprised. So I sent him over the Shadow Dark Welcome Pack, which I've never looked at, but I apparently had in my collection, and someone online suggested it for like an opening one shot. So I sent him that, and I told him to look at the first adventure, the first module in there, and run that next time. But then last night we were talking, and I suggested to him that probably it would be best if he ran a mega dungeon. He doesn't have to worry about a big sandbox, region to deal with. He doesn't have to read multiple modules and dungeons and sprinkle them throughout. He doesn't have to worry about random encounters and blah blah blah. He just has to worry about this little town wherever we are and the mega dungeon itself. Um, and he agreed. And so I sent him over like 5 different mega dungeons I had in my collection. I sent him over um, castles in Tillin, the lost city of Baracus, Stonehell, Dwimmermount, and Gunderholfen. And I told him, I started talking about Caverns of Thracia because he kind of liked the theme of Thracia, like the sort of ancient Greek minotaurs, that sort of thing. Um, but the problem there, I don't own the PDF of the new version. I only have the book, and that's not really his bag. So we'll see about that. But I told him, like, really, you should probably take a look at Gunderholfen. I have not read it like at all, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And I looked at one of that guy's other modules that he wrote, The Bottomless Pit of Zorth. And it just seems so interesting and so unique. Like a really kind of not a bog standard dungeon at all. And I've heard Gunderhoven, once you get past like level 3 of the dungeon, it gets really interesting too. So I was like, yeah, maybe do that. And it comes with like a fully fleshed out town for him to run, so he doesn't have to come up with his own town and stuff. So I told him to take a look at that one in particular, but I sent him over all 5 that I have. I've looked at Castles in Tillin, I've looked at Lost City of Barracuda, I've looked at Stonehell, but just briefly, not much. Uh, so any of them would be fine. But yeah, so we'll see what he decides. But yeah, I guess this Wednesday we're going to start our new Shadow Dark campaign. He might end up just starting us with the Mega Dungeon. I don't know if he'll do the Welcome Back one or not. We'll see. He said that he's going to do all his prep on Sundays. Every Sunday he will prep. I don't know if I believe him. He's pretty flaky, but yeah, we'll see. The best thing for him really would be to become confident enough to just improvise and run things on the fly, because then your prep is basically non-existent. Like my prep for a session when I DM like a Shattered Art thing is pretty minimal. Like I barely look at anything. Um, if they're going to a specific dungeon and I know they're going to a specific dungeon, maybe I'll glance at it, but yeah, beyond that, not much. I'll throw it on the virtual tabletop and I'll put a fog of war up and that's about it. So that would be best for him, but we'll see. All right, that's enough. So, more solo RPGs, more Dominions, more Ashes. And on Wednesday, another RPG session, the start of a Shadow Dark campaign that I get to play in. I mean, I'm pretty excited, pretty hyped. My first time playing an actual like OSR style game with a DM. And over on the Exploring series, part 2 of Containment Breach, an hour-long video. Good stuff. But for now, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I'll see you fine folks next